In today's episode, we talk about the aftermath of Zelensky's international tour, boosting Ukrainian military and political stance. We also talk about Russia, that has redeployed 50,000 troops to Kursk Oblast, update on Kursk incursion. And we talk about Ukrainian journalist Victoria Roshina, who died in Russian captivity. My colleague Pavlo Shtelmach talks to Natalia Humenyuk, a co-founder of the independent media Hromadske, a media outlet that Victoria Roshina worked for. Good afternoon. These topics in more detail in our daily episode with Henry Keane, me, at Creative English, doing our best to bring the hard truth in easy terms for the whole free world directly from Ukraine. Early in September, Zelensky presented the victory plan to United States President Joe Biden and US presidential candidates Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. These days, President Zelensky visits 4 European countries, Great Britain, Italy, Germany, France, this week, and participated in a summit with the Balkan countries. At these meetings, he also presented his victory plan. Victory plan, Kyiv has developed a victory plan that provides for a number of steps by partner states to ensure that Ukraine has a strong position in any negotiations with Russia, including at the upcoming peace summit. While in Berlin, the Ukrainian president said he would like to see the war end no later than 2025, and the victory plan, he said, would be a bridge to an effective peace summit. So what are the results of the Zelensky's international tour after all? Well, Washington Post put Zelensky's visit as straightforward as it gets. I quote, "Ukraine left in security limbo. With Zelensky's US trip, results unclear. Since the United States visit, Ukraine is in unsettling limbo, reliant on the United States as its main ally, yet unsure how long that support will continue." End of quote. Well, dear Washington Post, I hate to break it to you like that, but it never was clear how long the support will continue. Moreover, 960 days back, it was not clear if the support will be there in the first place. So cheer up a little bit, will you? Washington Post also goes quite Washington Postish and speculates again by saying, I quote, "Zelensky's administration has so far kept the points of the victory plan, which was shared with President Biden and other top officials, a secret. But it probably hinges on either accelerated NATO membership or binding security guarantees from Ukraine's Western partners." End of quote. Security guarantees, a NATO accelerated membership. Sure thing, but in exchange to what, I wonder?
There will not be a situation in which the absolute majority will recognize the occupation of their territory, but Ukrainians are prepared for a format that would postpone the full return of certain territories for the future, only on the condition that there is some kind of security factor in place. Anton Grushetsky, project manager at the Kyiv International Institute of Sociology.
Well, whatever the speculations in Russian oligarch-owned media are there, the truth in easy terms is Ukrainian President Zelensky has been on a European tour, and as a result of such, Ukraine will receive new defense packages.
Бажаю здоров'я, шановні українці, українки.
I wish you health, fellow Ukrainians. It is an important week of meetings with our friends in Europe, the largest defense donors and also the strategic region of the Balkans and Southeast Europe in general. Today it was Berlin, talks with Chancellor Scholz and just now a meeting with President Steinmeier. There will be a new defense package for Ukraine from Germany. I am especially grateful for the assistance with air defense systems. Germany is the undisputed leader of support in this area. I am grateful for another IRIS-T. We discussed with the Chancellor what kind of support will be provided this year and next. It is very important for us that the amount of aid from Germany remains stable, and this will be a signal that the path to peace will remain assured despite everything. We discussed how to further consolidate the world to bring peace closer.
And one more thing. You know, sometimes when I look at these people in their high chairs talking about whether to help Ukraine to survive or not, and what value human values have in oil, money, politics, and power units, I wish, sometimes I do, I'm sorry, that Russia turns all its barrels and guns towards Western capitals, just for one day, and bombs and shells and burns it just as it does with Kiev 960 days in a row and counting. What do you think those politicians would answer to their constituency then? Would they still be discussing long-range restrictions for Ukraine to hit Russian military bases then, you think? In case you forgot, Ukraine launched the offensive into Kursk Oblast in early August, have seized up to 1,300 square kilometers, which is 500 square miles, and about 100 communities in Russia. One of the key goals of the operation was to divert Russian forces from Ukrainian battlefields, as per Ukraine's commander-in-chief Alexander Syrsky. And now, Russia indeed transfers around 50,000 troops from other sectors of the front to Kursk. I remind you that that happens more than 2 months after the start of Kiev's incursion. And Syrsky's figure is even an increase from President Zelensky's estimation from of 40,000 troops had been diverted to the Kursk sector. We know about roughly 50,000 soldiers from other sectors who were transferred to the Kursk direction, says Syrsky on national television. According to him, the redeployment indeed weakened Russian positions in other areas, namely in the Zaporizhia region, Kherson and Kramatorsk sectors. This, of course, made it easier for us to conduct defensive operations, Syrsky noted. While our forces continue to hold Russian territory in Kursk Oblast, the Russian offensive keeps grinding on Ukraine's east. Our military was recently forced to withdraw from Voleda, a town in the south of Donetsk Oblast that has withstood Russian attacks for 2 years. Heavy battles are also ongoing in Chasiv Yar and Toretsk in Donetsk Oblast, and Russian troops are closing in on a key logistic hub in Pokrovsk. In the meantime, Russia seeks to dislodge Ukrainian troops from its home turf in Kursk Oblast, attacking Ukraine's salient from the west. It looks like Russia has concentrated a considerable force in the area and is trying to get a foothold near the village of Novoivanovka. Senior U.S. officials told Bloomberg that Ukrainian forces should be able to hold seized territory in Russia's Kursk Oblast for several months or longer, thanks to a steady flow of supplies and Moscow's focus on eastern Ukraine.
Бажаю здоров'я, шановні українці, українки.
I wish you health, fellow Ukrainians. Today I am already in Kyiv. I spoke with Commander-in-Chief Syrsky. He reported on all frontline directions and our Kursk operation. The Pokrovsk direction well done. Every soldier, every sergeant, every officer who ensures the defense of our positions. In general, the Donetsk and Zaporizhia directions are facing very difficult conditions, fierce enemy actions, but our unit's resilience is crucial. It is our resilience that makes all the difference.
A Ukrainian journalist died in Russian captivity, on the verge of her salvation. Was she murdered? We talk about the tragedy with Natalia Humenyuk, a Ukrainian journalist and author specializing in foreign affairs and war reporting. Natalia is a co-founder and CEO of the Public Interest Journalist Lab and a co-founder of the independent media Hromadske, a media company that Victoria Roshina worked for before she was murdered by the Kremlin. My colleague Pavlo Stelmach leads the talk interview on UATV English.
So within this period of time, since Victoria Roshina, a brilliant and very brave Ukrainian journalist who was held in the captivity in Russian-occupied territories since what we know, August 2023, when she most probably left for Melitopol. That's where there was the latest information about her physical presence. That's what we know. Quite a few international journalistic and media organizations were involved, and what I know, trying to figure out where she is, what is there. But we need to admit that unfortunately at this stage, the international organizations do not have much leverage to influence Russia. It's happening for quite a long time. So if some years ago, maybe a decade ago, a call to free a journalist would be there, and maybe would be a pressure for such politicians as the Russian President Putin, it's just not working any longer. And it's something very sad and to admit. So in this particular case, we know for sure that quite a few colleagues were helpful at different stage, trying to help, but they just are not capable, and that's something to admit. So it's not that much about, ignoring. Also, we need to understand that there are so many Ukrainian, other Ukrainian journalists in Russian captivity so far. I would push as well that indeed, in particular in the case of occupied Crimea, this is not a new news. It's the citizen journalism are in detention for quite some time, and it's very hard to tell this story. But in case of Victoria Roshina, it's like there was a bit more attention. We also should say there were the limits to how much we knew to have like a bigger campaign, because we didn't know exactly where she was for quite some time. But we need to admit that yes, the usual treaties, international orders has its limits to influence. There is this very, very complicated process of prisoners exchange. Sometimes some of the countries are facilitating this exchange, including like the issues with children who's been taken to Russia. But yes, there is a very limited capacity of the world to do it through the usual channels. So it should be something else. Support of the international community, mainly because Ukraine is the democratic state, and it's possible for international reporters from all over the globe, from Colombia to some other countries, to come to Ukraine and work. So compared to how it was in 2022, there is really, a proper coverage of the war against Ukraine in the international media. Honestly, as always, way more than I could expect. Now, with this particular tragic news about the death of Victoria, who largely was not very known internationally. I shouldn't say that, we knew quite a few of her colleagues know her, but, also it's not like every Ukrainian knew her. Of course, there is this interest there. So, I think like all the major publications are writing, speaking. But as well, that is a general tragedy in journalism that the worse things are there, the more similar crimes are happening, the less interest is there. I do think that, we as a Ukrainian colleagues, for me, the question as well, like how much we were writing about Victoria, how much, have we resources to speak about her. So at this stage, I think it's very important for us to understand that, there are so many things happening globally. We also have our limits to understand, to be involved in other conflicts and tragedies about the situation with journalists with numerous countries internationally. But I think that what something is to stress is that we know what's going on in the occupied territories. In the Russian occupied territories. I work with a project on the war crimes documentation, and that's not a surprise. We knew, we talked to dozens of the people, and even who left who've been imprisoned in particular in Zaporizhia region, including in Berdyansk, Melitopol, other areas. We know that they were all humiliated. They lived through the they were beaten. They might be sometimes electrocuted and tortured, and it's quite a common thing for a Ukrainian citizens who got into the, not just Ukrainian citizen, but any independent-minded person who was illegally detained in the occupied territories to be submitted to this type of the violent activities. So kind of most of the people to whom we talk who went through the Russian captivity were either beaten or tortured. So, and that's something which is happening already for 2.5 years. And there is enough information about that. Of course, these are the closed territories. We might don't know particular details about the particular, places, but overall we know. So for us, it's more important to pass this message that for Ukraine, the occupation is not really a choice. It's not just there, you have a different flag and things are, I don't know, like just a bit different. It's not even like it was before 2022 in Crimea and in occupied Crimea, but the risk to the people is very severe. So that's why, Victoria didn't survive this imprisonment. Who knows if it was like half a year, if it was like after 8 months, there were still chances. So what we know, the time is not on our side for the people who kept in the detentions. They need to be freed because the longer they are there, the risks are higher. And also the Russian occupation of these territories is not something to be tolerated. So I think that there is something unprecedented. The International Criminal Court issued the warrant for Vladimir Putin 1 year after the full-scale invasion, which is really very unusual and very fast. And now there are already 6 warrant arrests against the leadership of the Russian Federation, also accused on the attacks on the Ukraine on the infrastructure. It's actually very important because the ICC is taking very strategic cases, as we see, against this senior Russian leadership, not something we could expect. So the process is ongoing, and it's way more positive than I would have expected that in 2022. Unfortunately, the discussion about the creation of the special tribunal on the crime of aggression is still, slower than we would expect, but it should happen. But we need to understand that the most of the investigations would be taking place in Ukraine, mainly because Ukrainian state has a kind of capable law enforcement. They need support. It's so far the General Prosecutor Office of Ukraine has registered over 135,000 of the alleged war crimes, and it's a huge number. So the support is needed. But yes, it's already the 3rd year of the war, so Ukrainians expect kind of more trials, more investigations. But we are not on the, it's not like staggering. The process is okay. Yet indeed, we do believe that in particularly legally, I'm not a lawyer, I'm a journalist, but within the current work, I collaborate a lot with the lawyers. We understand that, for instance, the journalists, they are protected. So, everybody should be protected, but there are the vulnerable groups, there are the journalists. So attacks against journalists, like against the religious leaders, against some particular type of people, are legally considered to be more severe crime, because these people should be protected. So legally, there should be more responsibility. And so it's not about my opinion. It just really should be the case. The crime against the journalist, kind of according to the law, has the right to be in that territory. They can right to go. So maybe not now, but we as the colleagues of Victoria would like to have, to know who is responsible, who is in charge. It's partially our task, because in the end, there are so many people, there are so many numbers, there are so many tragedies. But if we, the close colleagues of Victoria, wouldn't kind of follow her individual case, who then? So there is a particular moral obligation on her friends and colleagues to do more.
And for now, I'm saying my goodbyes. Thank you so very much for your time. It was me, Henry Keane, and UATV English team. We did our best to deliver the hard truth in easy terms for the whole free world directly from Ukraine. Please like, subscribe, and comment in return. Your voice matters as it helps Ukrainian voice to be heard worldwide. Stay safe and tuned for more UATV English. Goodbye.